If only the volume had like 12 or 13 and didn't stop at 10, I would just blast this music. So let's see, maybe we'll get a new setup at some point here. Welcome back, Artist Journal, September 26, 2025, broadcasting from the inner half of the nervous system. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. The last show in Berlin. Get a good look at the bookshelf. Probably take it down shortly after I finish this show. So a landmark day here, actually. My friend just north of Munich is coming to pick me up either today or tomorrow morning. And he's going to spend a couple of days here, and then I guess Sunday we'll go back, take some of my stuff, and we shall move to a new chapter, a new background for your reality, or for your, what the consequences for you will be probably a new background. Might not be as exciting as the books, but yeah, so very exciting times. It's very fun to reboot the computer. So a nice adventure in store, hopefully very fun. And I am looking forward to taking you along for the ride. So let's begin. We have Ex Mortal. With these wonderful works we've been seeing in the last, I want to say 6 to 8 weeks, where it seems that pixelation is being added to the mix, doesn't it? I mean, what do we see here? And this is very interesting. This, of course, X has been working with AI recently, and I saw this landscape and I was like, is this real? And we'll look at the details in a second, but it's part of an AI software 3-part process, as Ex Mortal puts it. And it kind of makes sense because there's almost something almost a little too perfect about it. But what's kind of funny, just on a very practical level for the artist, really solves a copyright situation, because where are you going to get an image like this or a video like this? And let's say you find it. I mean, is this going to be stock footage? Like, everything has IP on it, but you go into AI, all of a sudden Ex Mortal can make endless permutations of content or of this theme even, and can even start to control, using prompts or whatever the process is, where that ends up. You know, maybe it almost looks like a painting in the background. So from a compositional point of view, quite interesting. Reminds me of Van Gogh, actually, where there's this very defined foreground, middle ground, and background, right? The foreground, of course, being the flowers here. The focal point as well, with the color and just like, you know, again, it's almost got a very hard contrast between the foreground and the background, which is actually, like, if you look at the flower here, you see right here, like, you have like the super distance with the super up close directly, you know, on top of each other, superimposed, so to speak. So you have that. Interestingly, the pixelation seems to just follow the flowers, which would, if one was to imagine how this was made, for pure speculation, I have no idea, but you might imagine there was a pixelated version of this work, and then that the flowers masked really the pixelation. So in other words, only the parts with the flowers where there's pixelation came through, and then maybe you put a multiply on where only some of the pixels kind of show through, and hence you have your work here. So again, an interesting combination. Like, it kind of points to the world we're going to live in, which is, when I first looked at this, I assumed it was real. That it was, in a sense, to a certain degree, what you could call nonfiction content. But of course, when I looked at the write-up and I was like, oh, maybe this is AI, and I look at the write-up and I'm like, oh, it is AI. And then you go, well, that's not nonfiction. That's fictional content. And it kind of points to this world we're entering into increasingly, and one can imagine just like, you know, where we are going to have a harder and harder time discerning between AI-generated content and reality. I mean, this is just kind of pointing towards that. So it's a kind of an interesting thing because, of course, there are a lot of skeptics on AI art. In some respects, understandable. We've discussed it many times here. We've long, big discussions early on in the show. But in other ways, you could say this is actually more interesting as AI, in the sense that it is simulated. It's like the simulation of this reality. So in that sense, it's kind of more contemporary. It's kind of more now, the fact that it is AI. One could argue. Is this more relevant? Is this speaking about our world of today more so than, some stock footage from the 2005, which one could assume this was, had you not known that it was AI? So isn't that interesting? And again, on a practical level for the artist, very, very useful, very helpful. So let's continue. Let's look at the details on this. And actually, having some space issues on the computer. I have the magic mouse, so the mouse is working. I've solved that issue, but I do need to preserve space here so our show is preserved here. So original video clip, look at how good that looks on here. So this is on super rare. Look at how good this looks on the page. So this sold, and Ex-Mortal has been actually doing quite well. As you're going to see here, sold out actually on super rare. As you see, $330 for the first piece, $449, $708, $667, selling for around $700, $600 to $700 in these last few works, all sold out. So that's a pretty nice, starts to compete with whatever your real job is, doesn't it? Pretty impressive. And it's just another example, in a sense, of the excitement right now on Ethereum. From a market perspective, it seems undeniable that for whatever reason, there is an excitement. It could be the Raoul Pal effect, right? It could be the rise in the ETH price, where all of a sudden people feel rich. Maybe that's why it's happening on ETH rather than Tezos, because Tezos were not, if anything, Tezos, it feels like a little bit more muted than normal. I've gotten messages about this. What do you think is happening with the market? Referring to the Tezos market for the, average artist, which it's been harder, which is something that never happened in the, this has been 3 years of this show. I've always been amazed at the resilience of the market. And I think I've seen the first kind of real kind of, I don't want to call it change and I don't want to overstate it, but all to say, there does seem to be, to a certain degree, a split market where Ethereum has kind of taken off. And again, it's probably because of the crypto itself. As much as we might want to call it art on the blockchain rather than crypto art and make these distinctions, at the end of the day, it uses crypto. And there is a unbreakable bond there with the crypto scene, make of that what you will. Okay, let's look at the art. So, but all to say, doing fabulous. I mean, this is real money, but beautiful work too. And I'm not going to, there we go. We'll just do this. I need to preserve space. And so when I put the full thing, I think it loads up the entire, 50 megabyte file and I start to run into issues here. So isn't this interesting here? We're back to our simulated landscape. Because here, what do we have? I would argue we start to have a contradiction in light, which is we have a night scene with a moon, and we see this kind of almost ideal wave coming in. And then we have almost this ideal flower arrangement, beautifully done. Again, with the pixelation over top of the flowers, iterating on a process, right? Showing, okay, here are my ingredients of this process, and then I'm going to do a bunch of iterations, which is, to me, one of the hallmarks of, artists of the last 100 years, let's call it, or since the 1950s at least, where, as they start to add different mediums and everything, where it's about the formula. And then the works themselves are the proof of concept. Is this a good formula? You think of Polk, you think of Warhol, think of Gerhard Richter with all of these different series. But what you see is, some people would call that a conceptual artist, right? But when we think of conceptual artists, we might think of something a bit more conceptual. But that's basically what it is you're basically saying, here's my idea, my process, and then as an inventor of sorts of image making. And here's the result, and make of it, and let's see how good this invention was. So we seem to see that here. A couple other things too. So we have this there's an interesting, beautiful contradiction here, I would argue. So first of all, there's the light contradiction in the sense of why are the flowers so bright, right? But then we have this interesting contradiction in the content where this is almost engineered through the analog video glitch process to look old, right? It's visually engineered to look like an aged kind of postcard stock photography type thing. But in reality, this is a new creation, one could argue, seemingly, from the description and just everything we see. This is a new creation created by AI that has been engineered to look old. So in effect, we have a simulation of sorts of a reality, an artificial creation of reality, but for the most part, believable. You can ask questions. Maybe the flowers are being lit up by a light that's somehow behind over here. Maybe there's a little street light or something, and that's lighting up the flowers, because it's hard to believe the moonlight would be bright enough. So all to say, it kind of raises a lot of questions, doesn't it? Again, it kind of points to this future we're going into of, again, this is, it's tempting to see this as nonfiction content, but really this is fictional content. Bringing up this, the analytic synthetic discussion that we've discussed earlier. Here's another version. Again, we're back to the process. And as you see here, I actually love how it hints. We have this almost looks like one of those posters or like those people with airbrush kind of spray paint art you'll find in like tourist areas of European cities or tourist cities around the world, where they'll do like the big sci-fi things because it's almost too big, the moon, right? I assume that's a moon. Is it a planet? So again, it's on the edge of being like pointing out its own AI-ness, one could argue from a content perspective. And I think that adds, not sure if that's intentional or not, but I think that adds to the entire work here, this kind of artificiality that is not entirely trying to be hidden. Interestingly, again, which is more to the zeitgeist, one could argue, or which captures the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times better? A work, if this was stock photography from 2005, or AI created, synthetic or created, manufactured landscape. So all very interesting, isn't it? Beautiful color. So there's Ex-Mortal doing fabulously there on Super Rare. Big congrats. And thank you, Cesar. I absolutely adore this portrait here. I got out of bed. I just saw it as I was going to sleep, as I do, on my phone there. And I had to get out of bed to get this wonderful portrait. Thank you for doing that. So there it is on Taya. Rad portrait by Cesar. Just love it. I even like the expression and everything, the half-shavenness. I love it. Thank you for that. Just rad. Edition of 10. Thank you also to Gamma, a partner of the week there at Gamma, the main art platform on Bitcoin. They're also on Stacks. And so there we are, Pixel Art Inferno, they're front and center in the newsletter. So thank you. Love the people at Gamma. They're great to work with. And yeah, you will see me promoting the Pixel Art Inferno. I have 2 more weeks to promote that before I think it launches. So just warn you ahead of time, you're going to probably see a bunch of cool Pixel Art Inferno works from your host here. So here is actually the work, and here's the edit, or the newsletter, the edit, the Bitcoin Art editorial, partner of the week, Adrian Pocobelli, some works that I did on Bitcoin, and also the podcast, a link to the podcast. So feel free to sign up to their newsletter. Also coming up, we have Web 97, which I mentioned last time, October 6th on VerseWorks. Super excited for that. And I do have an exclusive preview here. We'll probably put this on X soon. A preview of the show.
Well, hello and welcome to Web 97. from Encephalon Interactive. Your occipital lobe now hosts the OxyView 5000 implant, letting you surf the web and watch broadcasts hands-free, screen-free. Focus on the Start Now button and dive straight into your Web 97 adventure and experience the future of browsing right through your eyes.
Right through your eyes. I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching this, this is how we do commercials on the Artist Journal program. These are our commercials over here. Big shout out to our sponsor next week, however. We will have a sponsor next week. And this goes on for another 40 seconds, so we can't watch the whole thing. But just something to whet your appetite there. From the amazing Kurt Hustle Collective. I'm just going to close these tabs here, because I am running into some issues with... There we go, for all our sakes here. Let's continue. I'm running into issues with memory here. So last show, my eyes saw thought, of course, quoting Magritte, referring to Kiriko. My eyes saw thought for the first time. That was a great comment that was left on the show here. So thank you for the big support here on Twitter. Tornado Rodriguez, thanks Poco for showing my work. Wish you a great day. Love the new works there. Adding like black and white and then a color or two. Very cool, edgy pixel artwork from Tornado. Thank you for the comment. Mr. Ritchie, love your journals. Don't know if I ever said it out loud before. Well, thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. It's awesome to hear. Never get tired of people. It's like watering a plant, your praise out there. So thank you. DJ Kiro, good luck on the escape. Indeed. It is like an escape, I feel like, from every city I've ever gone to. I just reach a point where I just feel like the imaginative possibilities have been explored, and it's time to explore somewhere else. It's nice to live in different places every few years. It's still an effort to move. So anyways, thank you. With the escape, I have my New Balance Berlin shirt on. So I am feeling the spirit of the escape, running with Berlin here. Anyways, Fran, thanks for high five. Thank you. Nathan, hi Poco, thanks for showing my work. Yes, Journey Paint is a drawing tool I made. An ongoing development experiment, just seeing where I can go with it. Yeah, very cool. This is, once again, what I like to call a major trend that is going to come, which is happening we're seeing it at the very early iterations, which is artists creating their own tools. And as AI gets better, that's another way that AI is going to transform the visual arts, is all of a sudden they're going to have, it's like creating your own paintbrushes and creating your own mediums, for your paint. And you can even, theoretically, you could keep it private. I don't know. I think Nathan's drawing tool, Journey Paint, is public, because I think Absurd Deity used it. But, you have that option. So all very cool. I think well worth experimenting with. Collector Official, awesome to hear from you. We have a work, actually, from Collector's new show. A rad curator there on the blockchain, Jan Lucas Magone. What a start. Thank you. Always great to hear from Jan. And actually, we have a work by Jan this episode. Andre, great to hear from you. Andre Summer Blues, doing quite well on Super Rare as well. An early artist we featured on the show hundreds of episodes ago. Computer Blood, great to hear from you. Awesome. So a work, I believe, on Super Rare. So glad that that's getting out there. Martin Bruce, wonderful to hear from you. We have another amazing work by you this episode. Thanks, great to hear from you. Thousand Lands, thanks for sharing my work, Mr. Pocobelli. Plane Crash Afterlife is alive and minted on object.com. So yeah, an edgy work there. I was compelled to show that. I mean, it's edgy in the sense that you have to also consider the tragedy of this happens to people, and pray, edgy work, 1,000. Oblivion Fields. Yes, I recently discovered Hideco as well. Love their work. Indeed, I think it was Collector, actually, who found their work. Look at that. Love that. Very cool pixel art here. So Oblivion Fields, just making sure everything is okay. Zed Laser, relentless string of bangers in this one. It's pretty insane what is happening out there. It is one benefit to the weekly shows. Yeah, wait till you see this show. It's one of the benefits of the weekly shows is you really get concentrated wonderfulness, concentration of wonderfulness. Thank you, Zed Laser. Great to hear from you. August Ground, mint really good work, and don't over mint right now. Right now, wise words indeed. Indeed, we're seeing what looks like this is referring to Tezos. It's a bit of a split market right now, and one assumes it's the crypto that is the reason. Of course, Ethereum performing well, and Tezos is just kind of at 65, 70 cents, right? So one imagines that's the reason. August Ground signals does look promising. Yes, so I have the FAQ. I need to basically read everything. I'm concentrated on this move now, but once that's done, I'm going to kind of go full on into promoting the Pixel Art Inferno and just getting the word out. And that uses signals. Maybe I'll put out a video, is what I'm thinking. That shows how it works, so people know how to even, participate. So let's see. It sounds super promising, doesn't it? No new friends. Always good, Poco. I think we have a work by you, no new friends. So it's always great to meet new friends. You have a new friend here. No new friends. August Ground, Habo Poco. Oh no, itinerant and free. If you were here, I would put you up in the studio. Yeah, that Renki is so clean. It's just on and off in a room, essentially. We have some more Renkis. Thank you, sir. Should I ever find myself a hobo, I will keep that in mind. T-Rick, if you ain't all following all these artists mentioned in this journal, what are you doing? Great to hear from T-Rick, an enthusiast of the show, awesomely. And also, my eyes saw thought, so let's just go here. What are your favorite video games? You talk about pixel art. So I said Apple II games. And where is Rat Cloak? Well, let's leave Rat Cloak. We think in certain parts of the world, but let's leave it there. Renki Yamasaki. So we heard from Renki, who of course made this brilliant work of art here. Thanks for the introduction. I was intrigued by your interest in the animated abstract category. Indeed, it's not a physical art thing. In a sense, one of the things that digital art can do when we are screen first, as we are out here, that is one of the key differences between the first and the second generation of digital art, as I like to call it, is we're screen first, so we can really incorporate motion in ways that only really video artists could before, which is also a screen first, it's worth noting, medium. For these series, I generate the dimensions 9 by 40 by 30 inches, frequently used in Judd's work. How interesting. Within a 3D space for my pieces, Judd Foundation, and a link to the Judd Foundation. So this is turning into quite a beautiful kind of homage of sorts to Donald Judd. Just very cool. So great to hear from you, Renki. Mumbleboy. So this was interesting too. Thank you for mentioning it. I'm still on Rodeo Club and liking it. It's not perfect, but there are a lot of positives. I have a few works, as you see here, from Rodeo. About to Whistle is now available for offers. So very nice work there that we were highlighting last show. And I was just saying, you know what worked out really well for Rodeo is once they stopped actually trying to convince everybody that this was the platform that was super cool, that's when it was like, maybe I should consider Rodeo. It's become very social with communities for different categories and tools we used to make the work. For example, people who use programs with coding, it became a place to communicate. I think, do they have messaging? Which is something I haven't seen on other platforms before. Also, people who run Rodeo are all on it and will communicate with you directly to solve issues or just chat about art. That's another thing I haven't seen as well. So it is interesting. In a weird way, now that I feel like Rodeo is not trying to program us and trying to convince everybody, now that it's just kind of doing its own thing, I go, maybe this is something, maybe I should put some work on there. Maybe I should put sketches, or works in progress and all that sort of thing. So very interesting, Mumbleboy. This is interesting too. 787, is it possible that collectors' stunted attention span is due, at least in part, to galleries and curators rapidly moving from one release to the next? So referring to, this is part of the issue, isn't it? This is part of the issue with, in a sense, the digital art market as it's currently comprised, which is there's always this need to kind of do the next thing and make the next sale. And it just becomes like, in another way of putting this, which I mentioned a show or two ago, is there a supply and demand issue? Like, in a sense, it feels like the amount of collectors, like I don't know, are there 1,000? Maybe a couple of thousand when you include the artists that also maybe 3,000. Like how many? But it's not like tens of thousands of collectors. We often see, the reason I say that is we often see the same names, or we often see familiar names. Let's put it that way. So yeah, so it is interesting, and it seems like Ethereum's still doing quite well, but maybe there has been a slowdown there as well. Let's see what Sonso says, referencing this tweet that we just looked at. It feels like there's a deluge of art with things moving from one thing to the next with no time or real mechanism for appreciation or proper contextualization. Everything is important until tomorrow, and then the new thing. Best thing collectors can do is opt out and seek their own context. Indeed, or go at your own speed is another way of putting it. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Like there is yeah. I agree. Just kind of go at your own speed here. Another interesting reply. This Guido is from Art of the Millennium Gallery and Sotheby's and Super Rare. I spoke about this a while ago, referring to that original tweet. Oh, here it is. Actually, let's look at the first one. Confluence of many releases, not enough collectors. So we were discussing this last time. No liquidity and capital concentration on such a small segment of artists. It was never going to be healthy like that. And so what now? I spoke about this a while ago. If I had to guess, and obviously I could be wrong, we're going to see another capitulation for NFTs and art when the more speculative collectors, and reality is that we can safely assume a lot fall into this category, especially with what we see. And there's nothing wrong with it, but especially with what we see with Raoul Pal, right? Who is definitely saying this is where you want to be, is digital art. But which digital art? Because there's a lot of digital art out there. And when the more speculative collectors realize there is no new liquidity entering the market, I think that this will be a very long, drawn-out process that could deal a significant blow to the entire ecosystem. So quite a different view from this it's going to the moon type of view. Platforms, galleries will go out of business likely, and lots more will leave the space. And there aren't that many, I would argue. I think we're looking at a 10 to 15 year period before we see meaningful growth in the sense that it's not the same 5 artists making the majority of the sales. It's just impossible to grow a market in its current iteration. Defies the laws of economics. It is interesting. I mentioned this before. It's gotten incredibly expensive. Like if you're out to buy some X copy, I assume people like kind of classic, what you might even call, in a sense, safe crypto art. But with these prices, you have to ask, is it safe? As Guido says here, is this starting to defy the laws of economics, if I understand Guido correctly here? So it's interesting. As an artist, all I think you should do, it's kind of like that August comment, just keep putting out your best work, make great work, diversify across blockchains. Because what we see here is there's a lot of incentive right now, if you have a Super Rare account, to put work on Super Rare. Because you're probably going to have, as we see with Xmortal, who's also releasing on Object, but look at how well Xmortal is doing on Super Rare. There is an excitement for digital art on Super Rare, and even if it has cooled down a little bit, it's still hot enough. It's not dead by any stretch. So for the more speculative, or if you want to go with the newer kind of artists that aren't necessarily super celebrated yet, although X is quite celebrated, yeah, so it's all very interesting, the market here. This is kind of funny. Yuri J, no lies detected. So here's the artist. So it is a self-portrait. The artist in his studio, we looked at that work, and here is, this is fascinating actually. Here you see the screen and how loose everything is there. That almost looks like a Yuri J, but that is a curtain over there. Hilarious. This was cool too. So a trailer for this work we've been looking at for several shows here by Deadly Yuka. I think Japanese. I think it's a video game, but it looks like art, doesn't it? I'm a little worried about the copyright here, so I'm going to kill this beautiful music. But look at how cool this trailer is. And these stills. Yeah, this is just gorgeous work. Like all of this, the notebook, even the hand-drawn planet there, these plants. Stunning. I saw a flying saucer. Even the little tiny glitch, the details here. Stunning. Stunning, stunning. So let us close that window here. Here's another still. So just rad work from Deadly Yuka. And here is, I believe, the video game convention in Tokyo, where I believe it's a video game convention where you can promote your video game. How cool is this? If I was Sony, I would be like pretty excited. So let's see what happens there. What does it say? TGS 2025. So, and here's Cashern, who has actually put out work on Tezos for Limbo and Retro Manny's drop, their video game drop. Look at that. There's the thing on the old TV. What an ad. And then you see how gorgeous this all looks. So we've seen this scene a few times. Just really, really cool, interesting work from the Japanese pixel artists. I don't know if I remember this one. Coming 2026. Is this a video game? So art and video games, are they merging? Is the question that starts to be asked here. In a way that's not indirect or conceptual, but in a kind of more tangible, a real way. Are we going to start to see like quote unquote video game art? Capital A art, not just like that's so good I consider it art, but like no, this is like art that is kind of in the format of a video game. Who knows? Interesting questions here. Hermipe. Let's see. This is Hermipe. Rough draft. So this is how Hermipe starts sometimes. I want to decide the details by looking at the stage, so only rough sketches. I had only decided to change the resolution of the tree stump. I felt a commonality between memories that change with the flow of time and data that changes with seeing the performance. So I'm going to show you here the finished work, but this is the sketch, and it turns into that. You see here? So how interesting. Starts with a pencil sketch, or at least maybe on an iPad or whatever is the tool here, and ends over there. Very interesting, because one can imagine when one starts with a sketch, this will add to the image in the end. That kind of first process, it's almost like an underpainting to a certain degree, or at least kind of blocking things in as you make your portrait. It'll just have a different outcome one imagines, and probably a more sophisticated one. Beautiful work here, isn't it? Almost looks like, explosions or something. What do we have here? The Pine of Shadow Appearance. So a poetic title. Super interesting, also from Hermipe. So again, the Japanese pixel artists capturing the imagination over here. Some beautiful color combinations here. That pink and blue. That very digital combination. Fan art, Armored Core 6. So this is also Hermipe doing some fan art. Pretty rad. Here's Strano, similar color scheme. And here we have a tiny screen. Okay, the screen hits hard. So very, very cool. And probably pretty high resolution, one imagines. Or by being small, it'll look high resolution. Let's put it that way. Super interesting. And Zozo, painting. Very nice prints here. Look very sellable, Zozo. Super interesting. I'm sure there's a market for that. So interesting work there. So as we begin, so this was super interesting too, also posted by Zozo, just a GM. But this is something I feel like we haven't really seen before, at least I haven't seen it before, which is like basically a static Zozo, right? If that's in fact what this is, it kind of looks like a cool canvas. It's like Zozo does a canvas, but more kind of like large scale. Those other ones we just looked at are pretty small, but maybe in a similar spirit, actually. These static works, unmoving work, or moving works, but not literally moving. Digital pollination. So here we go. Some more Zozo. More traditional Zozo. There is Zozo. Again, reminds you of Garden Airplane Traps, but with by Max Ernst, but with computers. Interesting audio. Look at that. Some nice digital pollination. So maybe some flowers over here. Nature and the Machine. This is an edition of 1 and at 250 Tezos. And here's Escher Mall. One imagines referring to MC Escher. Is this an impossible mall? Wow. Kind of a rare vertical work here, isn't it? These escalators. Love the subject matter of a mall. Remember Abnormal by Spiegels? It's a great subject matter. Zozo does it well and picked up by Absurdity for 200 Tezos. So nice pickup there, 1 of 1. And here is Die with the Most Likes with a pretty cool work here. I believe this went to Raoul. I think I saw Raoul post this, so kind of a different work here. Not entirely different, but a different feeling kind of work. It's almost looking like physical in the background, but I don't think it is. And here, yeah, just an interesting piece by Die with the Most Likes. Chalk it up to the hole in the yard. And then a poem is included there. So quite an extensive poem. And I think this is probably a private sale. We'll look at the activity here on Super Rare. And so minted, but not, look at these great works by Die with the Most Likes. So I'm excited. So all to say, new work minted by Die with the Most Likes on Super Rare. Here's Yuri J, a woman cutting nails in a shallow tub. So spectacular work here. So beautiful work here with art on the blockchain here. Almost looks like a hat tip to, I don't know, a Renoir or some sort of impressionist theme here. Kind of has that feeling, doesn't it? A beautiful color as well here. Of course, we were just seeing Yuri J in his studio there using a Wacom, which is interesting. And an indirect one that's in front, and then you look at the screen, right? So interesting work here. Love that kind of neon pink, and that sold for 800 Tezos. So big sale. So not entirely quiet on Object. Yuri J, this is another one. I believe that sold for 800 Tezos. So Yuri J is actually doing quite spectacular here. Love the treatment of the woman here, with it almost all just being kind of filled in, and there's something very kind of painterly about that, where you almost see like the artist's, what kind of looks like the artist's hand a little bit, although it's not super clear. That could also be just this kind of curvy effect you can sometimes get. And then there, so again, kind of like an interior. From a content perspective, one could say, look at that. What is that? It looks like a sauna. Like, what is woman in a tub? From a content perspective, again, it kind of has that impressionist kind of vibe, or even early modernist kind of vibe. Martin Bruce, Butterfly Frame. So keeping it unpredictable as ever. Love that top kind of line that's bleeding through here. Even that little pixel in the corner. And interesting piece. Kind of reminds me of the snake a little bit, but here with a butterfly frame. Edition of 1 for 350 Tezos. That is on Object. Another work by Kurt Hustle Collective, Birdie Buddy, in the Weird But Cute exhibition. Masterful glitches. Just every little glitch here is like a masterpiece. Yeah, definitely weird and cute. Very rich audio there as well. Birdie Buddy, edition of 50 from the Kurt Hustle Collective. And is this listed? 20 Tezos and burned. And so, wow, is that an edition of 2? So this is why, owners, there are, okay, Weird Club does own 45, I think, but maybe those were burned. Not exactly sure what happened there, but I do see a burn of 45. Wow. So it could be a very low edition Kurt Hustle Collective. Here's Skamra, beautiful landscape here, kind of mountain landscape. Let's see what it says. Good afternoon. So getting some love there on X, beautifully textured Kind of looks like Switzerland or something. Untitled, Art for Humanity 3. And so this is an open edition, 11 minted, 5 Tezos. And a tree is the subject matter with some kind of rough pixelation. Again, AI artwork there from Scamra. So Untitled and 11 minted so far. You have 12 days to go, so you do have time to mint that. Doom, this is by Kuro, audio muted. Let's see if there's audio. So I think, what are we calling these? ROM paintings, I think. They're based on ROMs, but they're kind of like paintings. We had the video paintings by Kuro. Now we have the ROM paintings, I think. I don't know. 0.01 ETH. So you can place a bid. That's on Foundation. Interesting piece by Draincane, OD Modeling. Cool kind of digital artwork here and some interesting animation. Cool treatment of the figure. It's kind of a cool looking piece. Interesting dimensions there too. Almost like an old TV. Gorgeous, gorgeous work by Nuv 1914. Recustada. Beautiful work here. Interesting treatment of maybe a bikini or something. And you see the awesome knees here. Quite a lot of volume here, even kind of feeling kind of cut out, interestingly. So look at that face. And these great flowers, gorgeous piece here. This is sold out for $13.50 on Objects. So very nice piece there. I picked up one of these. I love this kind of double image or the structure here. So I'm not sure if I showed this yet. I don't think so. But it's possible I did. So two kind of different iterations of a similar subject. You can't tell when maybe it's kind of like a comic where the first part happens and the second part happens afterwards. Or is it just an alternative take? So kind of ambiguous piece here. See the window changes. So just interesting work from Nuv. And here's another gorgeous one by Nuv. Maybe this is burnt. There could be a new one, I assume. And again, we see just some figures here kind of looking like a classic, again, kind of modernist looking work, and these interesting kind of metallic colors here, right? Maybe it's the gradients that make them look metallic, but they are muted, right? Because this doesn't look as metallic because it's brighter. Interesting background there, as ever. Here's Mo S-H-I-T. This is, I think, an older work picked up by Absurdity. I thought it was just kind of cool mix of different elements here. Kind of collage and pixelation. Doing quite well there on X as well. So cool work by Mo. Here's Mumble Boy, Giant Hit Discotheque album. So a new one of one for 18 Tezos by Mumble Boy. Very nice piece here. Again, combining digital and physical, as you see here. So scanning in some collage and then adding in digital, filling in certain digital elements, colors. So that is 18 Tezos. Here is Boo Boy, Homo Sapiens. Kind of cool looking, isn't it? Kind of looks traditional in the sense that, again, looks like almost like a physical Boo Boy. But then you see these wild kind of twists here. Maybe it's all physical. That would be pretty impressive, actually. I mean, this would be a gorgeous physical, and it kind of looks like it's a physical. So not exactly sure what's going on here, but it's pretty cool from Boo Boy. Cool title, too. Homo Sapiens, kind of mysterious, isn't it? Demon Ego, new piece for new work. Also quite interesting here. As you see, playing with the printing process, the CMYK rasterization, fragmented syndrome, and also playing with some kind of moving area, animated area in the back here, kind of like GIF. And then also, yeah, so just interesting piece here. Interesting basketballs. Good luck with that. No New Friends. Interesting work from No New Friends. It's funny. I discovered the work this morning and then saw your comment as we were reading it. Yeah, cool. Interesting. Kind of pixelated, kind of using, kind of looks like Super Mario with emoji on top. Very interested. I just want to work for Video Game Magazine. Kind of looks that way. Edition of 5 sold out. It's doing quite well. It's a more, you know what it is? It's a more selective market. It's not that the market is dead. It's just a more selective market. It's a trickier market than, say, 3 months ago, where it seemed like every work we were looking at would be sold out before I even showed it. Like before you even have a chance to get it. So, market goes through its phases. Here's Neurocolor, Canoma. So sometimes sells for huge amounts of money. Let's see. So this is a private sale. Interesting piece. So new work. So lots of new work here coming out on Super Rare, but not a ton. It's not overcrowded. I mean, I think a Rat Cloak, like Rat Cloak's someone who should put work. They have a Super Rare account. They should put out work on Super Rare. For those that have sometimes, it's worth trying out. Let's put it that way. Giving it another shot. I think this is also actually No New Friends. This one was fabulous. Very interesting work. No New Friends. Really thought the pink phone, just super interesting. This is Red Rum. I used to call it Red Rum. Red Rum, very nice AI artwork. Not sure if it's new or not, but pretty cool. 124 retweets, reposts. Amazing. This one's spectacular. 144, very cool AI artwork here, I assume, by Red Rum. So nice work there. That's on X. Here's Tukes on Super Rare with a cool AI artwork, Relic of a Future Faith. So cool work, just minted recently. That is for 0.2 ETH. And let's just see, minted 3 days ago. So it's great to see. Actually, here's 0.2. So I think people are seeing like the market on ETH. There is like a healthy market on ETH, even if things have slowed down. If you're kind of doing consistent, you've been around for a while, and you're putting out great work, people will buy it, or at least they'll be interested. The brightness that forgot us. So here, nice AI painting from Tukes out of Brazil. Lejo X, American Football, love this piece. I believe this uses AI as well. Very cool. Playing with in a sense, the iconography, the graphic elements of a sports field, and then basically probably using AI to reimagine those lines. Poetry, AI, and Photoshop. Very interesting piece. That's 50 Tezos. That's on Object. American Football. Love the title. Here's Luciana Guerra. Luciana Guerra, and that is Luciferina, and that is on Super Rare. So cool digital painting here by Luciana Guerra on Super Rare. We have another one also. So putting out a couple of, I think these are both Luciferina 2. And again, I think these are, minted September 25th. So just yesterday. So all sorts of interesting activity there. Gianluca Magone, I'm down. So of course, classic skeletons and figures here by Gianluca Magone. Interesting white background. Looks like it is a pure digital artwork here. And look at that. So almost a picture of the spiritual realm, edition of 15 for 35 Tezos. Actually doing quite well here. Is that sold out? It is at 10 Tezos. So nice work from Gianluca Magone. And here is Uxine Scrolling Days, also sold out. And here playing with, I have the magic mouse, so I've gotten used to getting rid of the scroller here. But it took me a couple of days to get used to that. So anyways, beautiful work here by Uxine. Very interesting treatment, isn't it, of these edges here. And there, a skeleton, your daily dose, computer putting the fork. Do not do that at home. And here, some desktop elements. So done with a lot of care here. As you can see, cool composition. Edition of 11 and selling out at 44 Tezos. So nice work there for Uxine. Here is Time, also known as Santiago. This is on Super Rare with a reserve or a list price of half an ETH. And this was just created on September 19th. I'm not going to bring up the big one because it may crash the show. Cool work here from Time, also known as Santiago. We have another work. This is just posted, I believe, on X. 17 retweets, her 9 likes. Very interesting piece here. So endlessly experimenting. And this is on X. This was pretty cool too. Vidal Herrera. Daily outcry in our times. kind of looks like illustration. We've looked at Vidal's work in the past, but not for quite a while. And so here, a new work minted on Super Rare 2025, 24th of September, so just minted. And look who else is minting on Super Rare. Super interesting. Let's see if there's audio. Goyoung Arts. Very cool artist. Let me do this. There we go. So, very cool. I would put it full screen here, but again, it loads up the whole thing and can crash things at this point in my computer's journey. So, here's another work. No audio on this one. Very cool style here. Kind of illustrative, but oftentimes will kind of mask in some pixelation. Interesting contrast with Ex-Mortal. Comparison, shall we say. Beautiful plant. Very simple subject matter, but beautifully done. Super interesting. I think selling everything. Activity, again, these private sales. A lot of private sales going on Super Rare, interestingly. This is also on Super Rare. Flostitanarum, whose work we've looked at in the past, but not for a while. And this is just minted today in Vita. So kind of a cool looking illustration here. Kind of has a spiritual, mystical, almost arcana sort of style. Kind of magical looking, symbolic looking work here. Beautiful work, as you see, even in the margin and the frame. That is selling for 0.25 ETH, reserve price. Here's Skitchism, the duality of tomorrow. So also, when was this done? September 22nd. So a classic artist, also on Object, on Tezos, on Teia, what used to be Hen. Very cool, kind of psychedelic illustrator that is listed at 0.2, or a reserve of 0.2. This is a pretty cool work. This is Pomelo. Great to see Pomelo's work here. And let's see if we can, so beautiful illustration of a cigarette. As you see at the computer, kind of a classic modern scenario here, lighting the cigarette. Kind of a simple work in terms of narrative. And of course the gun raising all sorts of questions and the bullets and everything. Interesting piece from Pomelo. Here's Burka Bayram, also on Teia. Beautiful piece, edition of 10 for 3 Tezos each. Great illustration, I believe out of Turkey. So just a really good, cool black and white illustration here. Here's Rocano. This is on Rodeo, putting out some illustrations. Cool work here. And we remember some earlier ones that were on Object way back when. This is pretty nice. How did it do? So 4 sold using Adobe Illustrator. 4 sold on, I guess that's the other side of, there's always the financial side. I'm not sure how many people are using Rodeo right now. So I'll just say though, some people are, and so cool work by Rocano. Jake Studios, Burning Mode, digitally animated illustration. And so here, cool contrast here between background that is kind of airbrush looking or spray kind of looking tool, spray paint tool, and the front that's more illustrated with outlines, with the mid-ground more defined but no outlines, or no black outlines. Interesting way of kind of separating the foreground, midground, and background. And then that cool rainbow over top. Another improvisation, Burning Mode, edition of 1 for the Weird But Cute collection. That's 150 Tezos. This is great, wasn't it? Again, this disappeared at 850. This is by Rustic Digital Art Still Life, with all of these video game tropes and everything, and even the diagonal pixels here, put on a, working as always, as we've long kind of pointed out here, with the irrational here, and a little risque there on the left, and a pixelated flower coming out of what looks like almost like a vector, like wine bottle, empty wine bottle. And then some Mario hearts and everything, kiwi in the air. Always playing with the irrational. This is super cool. Not sure this wallet here. It's just an anonymous wallet from what I can tell. It's interesting how these, I think we saw this person's work last time, this SVG animation. Feel free to put a comment if you know who the artist is, so we can mention it next show. Interesting to see how this, again, SVG animation, something kind of quite original about it. SVG format is definitely an underutilized and underexplored format. This is an edition of 1, and I believe not listed. Hey ho day. Here's Cap'n. Molecular, very cool pixel art piece from Cap'n. Here is Alfino pixel art. This was cool too. Referring to the supply chain. Global supply chains are increasingly vulnerable. So, cool subject matter, very relevant. I should pick one up because I don't see anybody. I don't know if anybody's picked one up. Is this on Rodeo? So perhaps an opportunity there. Collect first. Wow. And so 24 days ago. I wonder how long. So maybe I thought it was only 30 or 24 hours. So I'm not sure how it works anymore. François Gamma make an offer. This is also on Rodeo. So cool work. Animated abstract, pixel art, animated abstract. Looks like using Aspirite, interestingly, from François Gamma. Also on Rodeo, we have the squares. So again, taking a concept, exploring it in different iterations. Very cool. Here is Element Lee, Minoritenkirche. So not some kind of church. And so kind of looks like almost like a freehand drawing of a church here. Nice and loose. And even this interesting part over here. Almost looks like it was done on site. En plein air, as they say. Very cool from Element Lee, super interesting artist. Here's Giovanni. Not sure if we've ever looked at their work before. Cool representation of traffic at night, one assumes, pixel art. Collect for 5 Tezos, still available. And here's Nifty Monkey, popular kind of Ethereum artist, sold for tons of money. Remember that work that I think Cosmo spent millions, or maybe hundreds, a lot of money. Let's put it that way, on a Nifty Monkey work. So here's just a new one. I think it's Nifty Monkey. There's a couple of artists that have kind of a similar style. I'm not sure if this is, I think it's Nifty Monkey. So all to say, not exactly sure what's going on there, if that's bananas or not, but cool pixel art. Here's the work that's at the Sovereign Gallery. They have a big show. This is called Midnight Ramen by Ken Matsumura. So Sovereign Gallery and collector, one of the great curators in the space, really finds new artists with diligence and makes a mission of it. So very cool. So it has this work here on the Golden Memories, the show on Object. So go check that out. This one's super rare, Sunken OX. We've looked at a little bit of this work before. It has this sold. It looks like transferred. I mean, I assume that's a private sale, right? So, pretty, because again, on super rare, you're not selling for like $5, right? So, pretty interesting what's going on over there. Cool work, by the way. Here's Yura Miron with, we looked at their work, I think, last show too, Compassion, Silent Flame. So it's fun to get a little bit deeper here in Ethereum and to see what's going on super rare and to really check in. So kind of a spiritual looking work here. Cool animated animation. Cool animation. Case XL. This is pretty cool. Case Corrupted Flow. So again, using moving water as subject matter for a glitch, but pretty original take here. Different kind of composition too with the waterfall. Very interesting piece, edition of 5. That looks sold out at 5 Tezos. So pretty cool. Absurdity picking one up. Here's Renki with a couple of new works. So here we see this part of the Judd series. As you see, interestingly, that kind of middle thing shifting from the shifting sides. We're going from top to bottom there, very minimal. Here's another one, that's an edition of 1. And here, kind of in the spirit of the work from last show we started with, Nakagawa, edition of 10. So very kind of minimal, love the color here. Beautiful work from Renki. Here's Haiti Rocket. I'm going to speed up in case my computer crashes. Number 2. Always the last shows, it's extra work. Or it's, Yeah, I have issues. So is that a $2 bill? Interestingly, I don't know if the US has a $2 bill. Maybe they do. So using that algorithm, this did really well. 32 editions selling at, okay, so for only $2, 2 Tezos. So that's why. So cool work there. And also from Haiti Rocket, here's a Bart Simpson work, Bart Wave. So again, playing with this algorithm, normally it's a little faster here. But again, my computer may be complaining a little bit, so we'll kill that. And here, playing with Daffy Duck, I believe Ducks is the title. And so I think normally it's a lot faster. It's kind of cool to see it in slow-mo, though, isn't it? And so there we go, getting a little faster here. And this is super cool. Love this ROM by Haiti Rocket. Love the color. Just a master here. So gorgeous, gorgeous work playing with the Japanese writing. And so how big is this? Edition of 1. So keeping it in the private collection. Yeah, that's a gorgeous one. This is an edition of 6 and some spaceships here. Again, the Japanese writing, very nice move. These giant chunky pixels. Really takes the glitch ROMs to the next level. So very cool there. Here's Yurin Yakon, stream number 98. Is that new? September 25th. It is. So again, playing with moving water and then just experimenting iterations on a process. Part of a solo exhibition, an opening in Psych. So it looks like a German museum. Very cool. Edition of 1 for 75 Tezos. It's a pretty cool sign. Kind of reminds you of the Cash Urn and the Deadly Yucca. Wonder if it's the same software. Everything is Waves, edition of 10. And this really cool fish. I'm not sure if we can make it bigger. Pretty interesting. Very interesting work. Here's another one. And yeah, so cool works there from Sign. Here is Feels, Water Grunge. So again, another animated abstract, but again, using water. Interesting common theme here, isn't it? Makes sense. And so edition of 9, and that is sold out at 77 Tezos. So things are moving. Somfei edition of 1, and Somfei is a classic, kind of older. He's been around, he or she, they've been around for a while. Very nice piece from Somfei. Great to see them putting out work. They might have been the whole time, but I don't remember seeing a ton of notifications. Collect for 150 Tezos. Here's Robness V3. This is on Super Rare. Wave 03, so putting out some glitchy works, shall we say. Here's another one, combining some bigger pixels, Wave 02. That's also on Super Rare, half an ETH, so still available. Here's on Zero Unbound. This is Bosque Gracias, and let's see if I can make this full screen. Can we do it? I think on their main page. Here it is, full screen. All right, awesome. So on-chain artwork, zerounbound.art is the website there if you're looking to go on-chain. Sega Bent, very cool work there. Here's Casey again, Point of Calm. Didn't realize this was the same artist. Very nice piece here. I think I actually picked this up this morning. And so indeed I did. So for $360, you can get one. Here's Macrometry. It continues to be quite interesting with Macrometry in the direction. It almost looks like tiling, doesn't it? Like video game tiles that are starting to be worked with here. 2 left at 5 Tezos. So, or sorry, 5, it looks like 2 are left from Macrometry, indeed. And then saving a few for themselves. Violet Bond on Bitcoin. This is part of the broken portraits using a broken scanner, I believe. So that's pretty cool. So that is available for 0.05 from Violet Bond on Gamma. Very interesting. This is a very nice one too. Cool concept. The Broken Portraits by Violet Bond. I believe was in that newsletter as well, if I'm not mistaken, that we're looking at the start from Gamma. So very cool work on Bitcoin. Peter the Roman, failed print. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means, because if this is indeed a failed print where it just didn't work out, it sure worked out, is my point here. Not sure if that's on purpose, but it's probably a failed print. Preserve this one. I guess this is probably all I mean, we're kind of back to the simulation here. This is actually probably just an image, not a physical work, even though I think Peter the Roman was experimenting with physical. And that is also part of the plan. Here's Walk with Le Petit Prince, a masterful work here from the Great Walk. This is physical work. And a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant Fat Man by Walk, referring to the atom bomb, 1945. And so really interesting work. Here's Die with the Most Likes, season-ending pickleball injury. So again, putting out very nice paintings here from Die with the Most Likes. And then, of course, you can guess who this is, Machine, with a work. And so edgy work from Machine, especially as you see here. Amazing work put on super rare, edgier. Hell yeah, and 50 by 60 centimeters. The NFT is paired with the original physical artwork. Upon purchase, the collector will also receive the physical painting. And so make an offer there for Machine. Very cool work. That is your show, my friends. See you, I guess, north of Munich there. We'll have a different background. It's been a wonderful time in the studio here. A sentimental goodbye. And so thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Until next time, take care.